go ahead and start our April meeting. Going to call the meeting to order, and we will start with the pledge.
Getting there. You just gotta bear with me a little bit.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know Karen should be there at any point. Amanda, she had a fire department meeting, was coming right there, but she thought she'd be there close to 7, but I don't want to hold everybody up. We'll go ahead and start. She can catch up on the minutes by listening to the recording.
All right, I started taking minutes. I can take them till she gets here, then give her what I have.
Awesome, thank you so much. The next thing is the review of the minutes from the February 26th meeting. It was pointed out to me that the review of the previous minutes and approval, it was Ron Smith had indicated that there was nothing in there about the 50th anniversary. It didn't show up and it didn't get put in here as a correction, so we need to make sure that's there. And then Ron forwarded to Jonathan and I the write-up, so we will send that out to everybody. And Jonathan, I think we should have some of those for the spring fling as well, so people can read that up there. And that will, I was gonna go over at the dinner that it's our 50th, but that way people can see it that don't go to the dinner as well. Are there any other corrections to the February 26th meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes with that correction.
Bobby Simpson has made a motion, seconded by Paul, with the addition of the 50th anniversary being put in there. What we're gonna do, all those in favor, if you could raise your hands for me, please. Opposed? So carried. Next thing is the treasurer's report, Bobby Simpson.
Okay, treasurer's report is out. Total assets presently are $29,355.23.
And this reflects deposits that have been made for spring fling. I believe we have, excuse me, all the information we need to try to finish setting up the SFS. We have not been able to submit our first 2 quarters to the state to get reimbursed because of this new SFS system. So I plan on working with Lindsay tomorrow, and hopefully she had to have a separate role for the North Country versus her FDR HPO. So hopefully we can get all that corrected and get her in there so we can get that stuff submitted.
Supposedly SFS is supposed to be a lot easier to navigate than Grants Gateway, but it has not proven to be so.
Yeah,
And Melissa is shaking her head no on Grants.
I struggled getting into it. Are there any questions for Bobby on the treasurer's report? Can I have a motion to accept it?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Ron Smith. Can I have a second on accepting the treasurer's report as was sent out to everybody ahead of time?
Ken has his hand up.
Ken Gardner? Seconded by Ken Gardner. Show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Enforcement list. It's a little shorter this time because we just met on February 26th. You have to have it on both screens. And get rid of it in this. There you go. Okay, so the first one is from 3-7, Mackenzie Nickel from Baldwinsville. 816A1, failure to comply, A2, negligent, A3, incompetent, A9, falsified PCR records. A11 abandonment, and 15A1 PCR completion. 3 years probation, a civil penalty of $12,000. 10,000 has been stayed pending successful completion of the probation. The next one is Amanda Van Hemsted Oldet from Salisbury Mills, 816A10, misappropriation of money or property. 3 years probation, civil penalty of 1,500 stayed pending successful completion of probation. 311 Jeffrey Ashton from Modena, New York, 815A2, comply with state or regional protocols. Surrendered his license effective 3/7/24. 319 Ryan Gittens from Brooklyn, 816A1 through 3, comply with requirements, negligent in 1 year suspension, a civil penalty of $2,000. And this gentleman must have been on the same call with him. Arnold Delitz from Brooklyn, 816A1 through 3, comply with requirements, negligent, incompetent. His certification was revoked effective 3/18, and he received a civil penalty of $5,000. So you can see that the state is kind of seeing this as a way to put some funds in the coffer. So you can see that the fines have been increased quite a bit. Other correspondence,
I did.
Walt Lehman did submit a letter of resignation due to some personal reasons. I did send him an email, have not heard back from him. We'll follow up this week to see if he can join us at Spring Fling Friday night for the banquet so we can recognize him for his years of service, but I have not heard back from him.
Do you know how long he served?
Couldn't find it in, there was no date on his application.
I know he's been a member a long
Yeah.
time.
And the last one dated today was sent to Norfolk Volunteer Rescue Squad, and we were copied on it. Dear President and First Chief, the Department of Health Bureau of EMS is sending this letter to advise you that in accordance with public health law, the Norfolk Volunteer Rescue Squad Agency Code 4414 no longer holds a valid New York State EMS operating certificate. The Norfolk Volunteer Rescue Squad's authority to operate a New York State EMS agency expired on 3/31/24. This is a direct violation of the Public Health Law, Section 3005-1. Effective January 1st, 2000, no ambulance service shall be operating unless it possesses a valid operating certificate. Further, until such time as the department receives the complete renewal application attachments, the negative impact on the Norfolk Volunteer Rescue Squad may include, but not limited to, the following: obtaining reimbursement funding for EMS certification training, participation in the CME research program, suspension of the agency's controlled substance license, discontinuance of all REMAC issued approvals, including advanced level of care, cause the EMS agency default on existing contracts or service. Should the Norfolk Volunteer Rescue Squad collect fees for services, this lapse in the operating certificate will preclude the agency from legally filing claims for services or accepting payment from Medicaid, Medicare, no-fault, and or private insurance providers. They may constitute wrongful and or fraudulent billing. Be advised that this notice will be shared with other regulatory agencies as appropriate. Attached, you will find a statement of deficiency for this lapse. A written plan of correction is due to our office no later than end of business on 4/19. Please submit a complete recertification packet, the EMS agency renewal portal immediately. Sincerely, Melissa Lockwood, the Syracuse District Chief. So this came today. Jonathan, I really haven't spoken it much, but we will take a look at this tomorrow and see what kind of impact it's going to have on that region up there and making sure we have coverage. So that is on our radar, and we will address it tomorrow. Does anybody else have any correspondence? Hearing none, we'll go on to committee reports. auditing, we continue, Bobby and myself, continue monthly reviewing all of our financials, making sure that all the checks that we have written have cleared and the reconciliations are done in a timely manner and the accounts reconciled down to the penny, and that is happening, and there are no issues there with that. Has Karen made it yet?
No, she has not.
I'm not aware of anything with the bylaws, so we will go over that. CON, we're aware that there may be a CON to transfer ownership of an ambulance service, Harrisville. And, we will be, need to talk with you about that, Bob, now that the SNRT run is over. So maybe we can have a talk on that this week regarding that.
I should have more on that on Saturday.
Awesome. Executive, we have had a couple informal meetings, and we will talk more about that when we get down to REMAC. Fort Drum, Rich Hughes has, had an application submitted for Jeff Johnson to replace him, on the, council as the Fort Drum, representative. I see Rich is with us still tonight. Jeff is with us as well. This is not, that position is not tied to a name. It's tied to the post. So, Jeff, we will make sure that we start putting you, and Rich, we will thank you for your service and helping us out. You're more than welcome to come anytime. Love to still have you.
I thoroughly enjoy these meetings as much as the next person.
Can we vote on that?
So I don't know which one of you wants to give the report for Fort Drum, but that's next on the list.
So our air medevac unit is in the process of packing up and deploying. The unit that is replacing them will be here next week for a site visit. At that time, I should have a better answer on what service they're gonna provide to the community. Because it is up to the commander whether or not they perform the same support to the community that the mountain unit has been doing. So I should have more information on that next week. But in the interim, until that transition takes place, the 10th Mountain Division Air Medevac unit will still provide that service and have their second up aircraft available for the duration. So at least until 1 June, we know that that's available. To include next Monday, they will have that second up crew on duty in case something happens and the community needs them. So they will be available.
Yeah, our concern with that is, we're hearing so many people are putting their boats in the water early to go out on the water to watch the eclipse, that
Right.
could be some issues, and your assistance would be greatly appreciated.
Other than that, we are still in the process of planning this year's full-scale exercise and work with Chris and Paul on that to include the hospitals and the EMS. As much EMS as we can get to participate is much appreciated. So that's all I have, unless there are any questions for me.
Any questions for Rich on Fort Drum? Okay, moving on. Chris, legislation.
So last Friday, we met with someone named Ken Blankenbush. We were there for about an hour. We had Raleigh Churchill, myself, and a couple people from Carthage. We spent about an hour, a little over an hour with them. I had heard from some other folks around the state that a lot of the things that we were pushing for, the MIH, the treating place, they had pulled out. Well, that is not true. We knew from speaking with Scott Gray last year, the Assembly and now really the Senate both do not like the governor's budget when she submits. She's got like 140 pages. They submit a budget that has an awful lot of policy in it, so they stripped that out immediately. So they took her budget from like 140 pages to 40. So they want to, but on the budget, they want to vote on money and things tied to money. So if it's not tied to money, it gets moved. So After we researched everything, a couple of our bills, the EMS bill with the change in the definition and essential service is still there. The treating place, we had a good conversation. I learned that Assemblyman Ken Blankenbush is on the Rules Committee, and he's also on the Ways and Means. So when something comes out of committee, he says he's not aware of any of these of our initiatives. But once they come out of the Health Committee, they'll go to the Rules Committee, where he will be part of drafting the rules, and then Ways and Means it'll go to if there's money tied to it or whatever. So he's a good person. Have a good contact now with his chief of staff. I think we opened his eyes quite a bit. He was very shocked when I told him that a lot of times we don't get paid for what we do. He was just absolutely dumbfounded when he learned that. So we've typically, when we meet with them, we really go over the benefits of treated place and telehealth and why we need these changes, and our shrinking workforce and the whole thing. So I think we educated him very well. I hope we did. We're waiting for a joint meeting. Scott Gray, we were supposed to meet with, and he talked to the Assembly Minority Leader, Mr. Barclay, and they would like to do a joint meeting with us. I don't know Mr. Barclay that well, so they've requested a joint meeting, and I still don't have a date. So we're waiting on that. So, so far our meetings with everybody's been pretty good. EMS Day on the Hill is coming up in April. If anybody would still like to go, I know Deb and I are going down to Washington DC. We'll be spending a day. I know the treating place legislation is due to expire the end of this year. And I don't know if you guys are tracking the proposed OSHA change for fire and EMS. We started looking, it's 250 pages long. I'm on page 3. And there's a lot in there, but one thing gives me a little bit of comfort is if you look at essentially, if you're not held to it today, they don't expect that to change. Not really sure, but for example, if you're like, for most of us, if you're a volunteer agency, it doesn't appear that this is going to cover us, but again, it's 250 pages long. So it requires physicals, it requires all kinds of stuff. I went off a little bit. I was in talking to Paul the other day, and the chart where it says how much all this stuff is going to cost, they used I believe it's 2019, 2020, whatever Medicaid rates. So for example, if you have a firefighter or an EMS provider that needs an EKG, they say it costs $15. So that's the cost. So the total physical is just under $700. And again, that's Medicaid rates from a few years ago. So if an EKG is $15, yeah, I don't think there's a cardiologist out there that's going to do that EKG and interpret it for $15. So I think that $700 bill is going to end up being closer to probably $2,000 or $3,000. And the physical, there's an agility test. There's a couple other things that we're learning in there that may or may not apply. Again, it's very early, but we've got a lot of people looking at it. The agencies are going to be responsible to pay that bill. And it's either everybody's going to have an initial physical, and then based on the results of that physical, you may need an annual physical or at a minimum, a biannual physical. So this is going to add up very quickly. I think it's going to put a lot of us that rely on volunteers. I know our agency, we've got 3 of our providers that are in their 70s that are drivers for us. So I'm not sure they're going to pass an agility test. So this is
70, and I'm not gonna pass it.
and there's 4. I mean, not pass an agility test. But this is something we all need to look at. So NYSVERA Legislative Committee, we met, and we're starting to do a little bit deeper dive on this. But one of the things I know between the fire service and EMS, I really would like folks to do is take a look at the correspondence around this. And there is a comment period. It was just extended into June. And they're really looking for each agency to write a personal response to this. Pick 1 or 2 challenges, 2 or 3 subjects, and respond how this is going to affect your agency. Don't try to answer all 15 or 20. Just pick 1 or 2. This is what it's going to do to my agency, and send it in. And if we can get all the departments to do that very, very short response, you're gonna kind of flood that inbox with these comments, so just
So
something to
Chris,
keep an eye on.
maybe this week we can put together a link and we can have Jonathan send it out to all the agencies
Yeah,
so that we can get agencies to do that, but we'll
May-
give them the
it may
link.
take more than a week, but, I mean, I can send you the whole 250 pages of what I have, that's easy.
No.
But it's a long, it is, it's lawyer talk. So,
Question for you.
mm,
Mr. Blankenbush and, well, the ones you've been in contact with are in the minority party. They're the Republicans and the Democrats run the show in the state.
correct.
Have you been in contact with the Democrat side of things?
Yes, I actually sent a letter to the chairman of both health committees, Assemblywoman Pauling and Senator Rivera. I sent them a personal email outlining some of these
Can
bills.
you
and
get the
things.
names of all the ones on that committee and send emails to them?
Probably. I sent it to the chair.
Do that?
I'd have to find out who all the people are on that health committee.
That's gotta be on
But
the
it might-
website.
But I have to pull up each member, see what committees are on. I mean, I don't think there's a way to go to who's on the health committee
Yeah,
and have a
there is,
list.
there's
Is
a
there?
list.
I know when I was
They must
fighting
list like their ad
uh,
hoc groups.
for something in my business world. And I mailed to all sorts of people all over the state, and it was very interesting who responded. And none of them was on the local people.
Hmm.
Now, that was a number of years ago, but
Yeah.
still, I was out to kill some proposed
Hmm.
legislation, and I won.
Yeah.
Just to.
Absolutely, Ken. We're trying to get people involved, absolutely.
Well, and Paulin and Rivera have been huge champions
Very.
for EMS, and a lot of the legislation that we've seen get passed in the
Yep.
last couple of years has.
Their
been
sponsors.
driven by
Spearheaded,
them.
yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Also at the state level, the North, or the CMAX, REMSCO subcommittee, legislation subcommittee is pretty stacked with North Country people.
Mhm.
With Chris is on it, I'm on it, from my
Mark's on
capacity
it.
as a mayor, Mark is on it, Jeff Call is on it, and I think there's one other person who I can't remember, so. And I think there's only really like 13, 14 people on the committee, so to have
Yeah.
that many from one area, I think definitely helps us a lot. Chris talks a lot at it too.
Anything else under
Nothing
legislation?
I can think of.
Any questions on legislation?
Good report.
Moving on, nothing to report under membership nominating. We'll do that under, new business. Paul reached out.
Doug's available.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if you had a chance to
Yep.
talk to him. Okay, so Doug will do that. Under, new business, the election of the vice chair and the treasurer. Here, Bob, anything to report?
Nothing was
Looks like-
forwarded to the peer committee, so there's no report.
Program agency.
All right, bear with me.
Stuff today.
Well, so our regular computer isn't working right, so I have to,
I don't know what that's like.
we're doing it all off my laptop, so. There we go.
Da-da-da. Like if you're in the day off.
Maybe. There we go. Okay, so we had some updates to the pads. So Watertown Family YMCA, they had to update their pad. That was for the old downtown site, which is now no longer active. So they sent in the update to basically deactivate that site. Safety Group, 430 New York State Auto Dealers, like Toyota sent in an update. And the Watertown Family YMCA new downtown location in Watertown sent theirs. IGL demo projects, no new additions to this from the North Country side.
I'm on there. this-
You're on there this time, though, I remember. So BLS adjuncts that will have to go to the REMAC for approval.
Smithville is in.
They're not. They're on the state's list, I thought.
They've not submitted the paperwork.
Oh, well, we'll work on that.
I'm working with them.
Okay. We'll move on. EPCR, so North Lawrence is still working on getting their stuff together to go live on Image Trend. I believe their go live date is within the next 2 weeks. And Shimoff Fire Department is in the same, still not online as Great Bend Fire Department and Potsdam Campus Rescue. But Melissa, we might need to look at Great Bend because I don't know if they're still active or not.
They
So Amanda,
have-
go ahead.
Jonathan, they have members, but they're not registered
Austin hasn't been in
under Great Bend.
a long time.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Amanda, you can talk about the CQI initiative and just tell me when to change page.
All right, so for January, we pulled a total of 74 charts. 36 were from Mountain Lakes and 38 were from North Country. The blue line is the overall combined between the two regions, and the orange line is the North Country region. Charts are very much lacking in assessments, specifically assessments pertaining to the nature of the call. And that's in both regions. You can change it. So for February, there were 63 charts, 36 Mountain Lakes, and 27 North Country. Assessments were better in February for the North Country region. Next. And then in March, there were 50 charts overall, 31 Mountain Lakes and 19 from North Country. Still in the assessments. It's not the best. Anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, so what is not being assessed? What does that mean?
So when it
Most
goes through, go ahead, Amanda.
Most charts have no assessment. Or very, very, very limited assessment to like patients alert and oriented, and that's all that's in the chart.
And are you taking that from Image Trendy Lead?
Yes.
And have you gone back and looked at the original source, like EMS charts, to make sure it's not a problem coming over into Elite?
Mm-mm.
Because I bet that's probably what the problem is.
So this
I guess-
isn't just like drop downs, it's also in the narrative.
In the narrative too, so I'm looking at the drop downs and the narratives.
So this is specific to the complaint, so they're not doing a good assessment when it comes to like the HPI.
They're not
Correct.
documenting a good assessment.
Correct.
Yes.
Document.
I'm sure they're doing assessments, they're just not documented.
So I got a question, maybe it's from the training side. We're showing doing it.
So we need to look at the EPCR systems and put in there that you can advance without doing certain things, because the systems allow us to do that. So, have we gotten that data dictionary yet, or are we still waiting for that?
We're still waiting.
Because I mean, we need to go in and look at the data dictionary, and we need to look at what areas that you're seeing this deficiency
Well,
in.
so the problem is though, this is NEMSIS 3.4, the state's moving to 3.5. The state has abandoned pretty much all hope. And not you, Melissa, I mean the data team. I can't see your face right now, so I'm not talking bad, I promise. The data team has just dumped all their efforts into 3.5, and anything that was in 3.4 is just, it is what it is. With 3.5 and the education that is coming with 3.5, hopefully we'll be able to curb a lot of these things. I'm making a lot of that education, so.
So looking at those numbers, that, if I'm looking right at the chart, 15% of our calls, we're not doing an assessment, is that right? Am I looking right?
Percentage, quantity, total quantity, I believe.
Oh, that's a numerical, that's a number or percentage?
Percentage on the right.
Yeah, it's percentage.
It's
on
a
it.
percentage. If you want the numbers, I have the numbers. I just.
No, I mean, I'm trying to just, I guess, wrap my, right, I know when I we use EMS charts and page, I think it's 3, 4, and 5, you have to complete certain things, otherwise I can't close that chart.
But
So
what is
I'm wondering what
happening,
we're missing, that's all.
so what we think is happening is people are going into those drop downs, clicking the bare minimum to let that chart lock.
Because if you use Image Trend or IPCR, you can open up the assessment tab, populate a couple of things, back out and save it. And that is, in the eyes of the system, complete. And that's something I ran into with one of my agencies. We did documentation training on Thursday. because we saw a precipitous decline in our reimbursement stuff. I mean, like significant. So myself and one other QA person made it mandatory for the entire day. We did sessions and looking at the charts. There is almost no assessment, even begging people to say, isolate the assessment. If it's an extremity injury, focus the assessment. If it's a neuro thing, focus the assessment as cardiovascular. You don't have to fill out the left index digit, assessment on every single patient, but if it's an isolated thing, it's important. So again, I would believe this data to be, for the most part, true, because this is the loophole that people have found to burn through their charts, get the validation at the end, and on to the next one. But at face value, it's a trash chart because there's absolutely no assessment. So
I
I
mean,
think you've identified an educational component for the, LMS system.
For Amanda.
Yeah.
difficult would it be for within that 50 and then the 31 and the 19? How difficult would it be to break out of that 50 that this, 10 were EMS charts, 20 were image trend, 10 were whatever, so that we could see that to see if we can see what
Yeah, what
things
was this
look
one?
like? Would that be difficult to do?
No, not at all, because I can just connect the agency, like it wouldn't be hard to do at all.
I just think that would be very helpful to
Yeah.
see.
I wonder if it's vendor specific, like.
Right,
it's one of those-
because I mean,
Yeah,
February didn't look so bad, but was February more EMS charts and March doesn't look so good and is March more image, you know what I'm saying? So I think we need to kind of get that data to look at it a little bit.
Because if there's a deficiency, you're gonna have to go backtrack to not only the vendor, you're gonna have to go back to the agency and then ultimately the provider to fix that.
yeah.
That's only because somebody's looking at those pages.
I have started a spreadsheet for mapping errors. I've noticed with AIM that essentially aspirin maps to Excedrin. So, and I have pointed that out to Melissa, so she's working on that.
Oh, good, okay.
And that's what this whole CQI initiative is supposed to do. It's supposed to have conversations like this of, wait, what the heck's going on here?
And then how do we fix it?
And how do we fix it? Because that fix is not something that can specifically probably come from our office.
Right.
But you might know somebody at AMS Charts that we can call and
Yeah,
talk to, or
yeah,
you might know
absolutely.
somebody at IPCR, and collectively we can help resolve this matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
This actually kind of goes back to the days of paper PCRs. Some people just check all the appropriate boxes, patient AOA 3, and that was all they wrote on the chart. And some people needed the continuation sheet, because even though all it was they pinched their finger, there's an entire life history and, events leading up to. So that's a part of it. And hey, I was as guilty as anybody else of on paper, just like AOX 3, and that's pretty much it. So perhaps, and once we look at the data and everything else, maybe we need to, as you say, change some parameters. Okay, the narrative needs 25 words or less or more.
And that's some stuff that is changing with the new NEMSIS requirements. The narrative has to be X amount of characters long, even if it's a refusal, like you should be typing in something to your narrative. In the review, we found a cardiac arrest chart, and thank God it wasn't this region. That was a cardiac arrest, and I think it was 2, maybe 3 sentences for a worked cardiac arrest.
Jonathan, it was like 4 words.
Okay, I was trying to be nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
That right there.
Yeah.
So upcoming trainings, we have Spring Fling 2024, April 11th through the 13th. So far, actually, this number is wrong because more people have registered today. We're at 147. We have 10 vendors signed up, and so far we have 2 hospital systems that have signed up as sponsors. We do have another one that we just haven't gotten the paperwork from. So we'll have 3 total, so that we know of. You want to talk about the sign up thing?
Yeah, I do have a sign up sheet, looking for help Thursday night with registration, Friday with registration, scanning at the door, scanning for lunch, and the same with Saturday. So, and then I did add to Saturday, clean up and load the trailer. If some extra folks helped us at the end, some of us wouldn't be there for a lot of extra hours loading that, so, if you can help with spring fling, if you could email me, it would be greatly appreciated. We try to have 2 people on the door for both the BLS and the ALS track to scan them to get people out sooner. So help is needed, registration help is needed, so, you know, this is a sponsored training that we do as a region, and help would be greatly appreciated. We really are only looking for help that day. Most of the legwork Jonathan and myself do and have it done, and Amanda, so some help would be appreciated. So if you can, help with anything, please reach out to me so that we can try to fill the schedule here with, who we've got. As far as,
Somebody's got, the Thursday, somebody's got to put easels together.
oh yeah, Paul
Paul
won't be
won't be
there.
there, so we need somebody to put easels together and take them apart on Saturday.
The date for next year's, we're going to tomorrow check the calendar for when spring break will be and work around that, and then I will reach out to Janine to see if what we want's available so that we can have saved the date as we normally have in the packets for everybody. So we will come up with that date tomorrow and have it in the packets, so.
So miscellaneous stuff that we've been doing, it's kind of same old lately, which is relatively nice. EMS office participation in state quality metrics, state legislative committee, and the data and informatics education team. Next state EMS meetings are May 7th and 8th. EMS memorial is May 22nd, and the state hopes to have the new memorial completed by that date. Miscellaneous are all listed there. If you have paperwork that you would like to or need submitted to our office, please use the paperwork at fdrhpo.org. Email address. Oh, yeah. And so there have been some changes here in the office. Jess is no longer with us, and now Amanda has been appointed to that position of the clinical coordinator or promoted. And we are actively searching to hire a new office go-around person who manages my life. It's the one person who probably has more control over my life than what my wife does, or almost as much. So if you know anybody, send them our way.
Any questions for Jonathan and the program agency? Okay, moving on, REMAC. Our REMAC meeting is not going to be until the 15th. Because Dr. Delaney was not available to hold it the same night as this meeting. And we really wanted to do this before spring fling and just go over any issues with that. We did have a meeting with Dr. Delaney, Jonathan, myself, Dr. Delaney, and Mark Devers. And we talked about the eclipse, and we sent out a letter, and then we got a letter from the state saying that we couldn't do that. That's why we retracted it and sent it out to everybody. And the new letter that has been vetted by the state did go out. But basically, with the executive order being no longer in place, we cannot refuse to take people to the hospital like what we put in that letter. We need to do education at the scene for those lower acuity calls and make sure that we're using our resources appropriately, not knowing what things are going to be like that day. And that's basically what the letter that we just sent out this afternoon said as well. So
yeah, and there is a script also with it to provide providers who maybe don't know the best way to have that conversation with their patient of the facility that you're requesting to go to is either not the closest or maybe on diversion. It's very similar to the same guidance we gave for diversion, and kind of tells them the risks of being transported farther with everything that is going on or potentially is going on that day. But nothing is better than good, sound clinical judgment.
For those lower acuity calls. Neil's not here. I don't know anything under safety. I don't know anything under CISM, so we'll have to follow up with that. REMSCO and CMAC, as Jonathan mentioned, our next meetings are May 7th and 8th. We have been actively following up, trying to find out, nobody seems to know what the mysterious vetting process is to hold a CMAC or SEMSCO position. It's like it's double secret. It must be behind chain doors or something because nobody can tell us what it is. We've been over a year now trying to get Dr. Coates as our CMAC doc, and it still hasn't gone through. So we've gone to our elected officials and we have them involved now, and they're trying to track down to find out, one, why does it take so long? And two, what can we do to speed this to get him? Because he's just gonna get appointed and then it's gonna be time to reappoint him again. And so we're trying to get some elected officials involved to find out what this vetting process is and what we can do to get Dr. Coates on so that he is coming to the meetings, but he just doesn't have a vote. And we appreciate him coming, but we want him to be able to represent our region and have a vote and input on things that are going on. So hopefully we can get to the bottom of that.
And the nice thing is too, we're not the only region that's making lots of noise about this. There are 5 other regions across the state that CMAC docs are not vetted for. And then the state cries and boo-hoos that they can't have a quorum. Well, it's out of their hands, but like that is causing the problem.
Training and ed, Paul.
We've not had any meetings, I had no formal report.
Okay. Melissa, would you like to talk under here? You want to talk after the county reports? We would just like to give you an opportunity to add anything that you might want to. Do you want to do it now or wait till after the county reports?
I can wait till after the county reports.
Okay. Jefferson County, Paul.
Well, I'm not gonna be nearly as wordy, because if you have my last month's report, it's pretty much the same. But just some of the bullets are, academy class was, approved by the state, and we started that today. So that is underway. Our instructor update course has been approved. And at this point, at least, Drew Chesney will be our state rep, doing our update at that time. We are still very actively involved with the planning meetings and so on with the eclipse. I was at one this morning and we have another one on Thursday. Hopefully that's going to be the last one. But from the county standpoint and for preparation, and I think the region as a whole, I think we're in pretty good shape. I think we're pretty well organized, and it's just a matter of waiting to see what it transpires come Monday. But other than that, pretty much that's it. We're still pushing out our education. I think this is our 7th or 8th course this spring that we've generated to provide to providers. So from a personal standpoint, I want to give kudos out there for our instructors that are giving their time to get this education done. But other than that, that's the end of my report.
And just so you're aware, the EMS Agency of the Year is Jefferson County EMS. We awarded it to them because not only do they help take care of Jefferson County, they do Lewis. And we had that interim period in St. Lawrence where we didn't have a core sponsor. Oh, I'm sorry, Rich Beebe. Rich Beebe award is to Jefferson County EMS for all that they had done for training and education. And so it hasn't gone unnoticed, all that you do to try to help everybody. And, you know, you guys kind of led the way in doing the online CIC and CLI update. And, you know, everybody's kind of jumped on that bandwagon, but you had 70 or 80 some the first time you did it. And that's just,
It was an accident. We didn't mean to do it.
it's just remarkable. So thank you. Doug, you made it back from Germany. How about a St. Lawrence County update? For some reason, Mark thought it was important to go to Florida and spend time with his family. I don't understand it, but we're going to need to rely on you for a county report for St. Lawrence.
I wish I can give you something more thoroughly, but as the educational institution in St. Lawrence County, I don't attend operational meetings. And I can't honestly share a lot from that perspective. From the educational side of things in St. Lawrence County, our paramedic program is at its halfway point. We still have 17 paramedic students with us. We're looking forward to them completing their program in 4.5 months from now, so that's the goal. We are currently canvassing for our next paramedic cohort starting in June, so we're hopeful that we'll get some more applicants in for that. We do have a little restructuring going on within our department, so there should be a job opening posting soon for that. Our EMT class is going well. We only lost 1 or 2, but our summer EMT class is beyond the 20 applicants that we can take. So we're going to have to cut down on that. Our fall class is all set up for on campus, and we might have a proposed off campus one as well for the fall. We're setting it up right now. Our CME programs are going as regularly scheduled every 3rd Wednesday, minus the summer and the month of December. And those have been great responses with 80 to 120 in-person and virtual attending. Bob, thanks for coming a couple months ago. We are still getting more requests for your presentation, so great job. Appreciate that. And I think that is about it. I did have a question to some of you, and maybe even Paul, I'm not sure. Have we have any update on the potential CLI program we were going to do in the area, or any CLI assistance?
So the LMS is all set up to go. Paul's got to come in and record the first few modules, so we need to get everybody down here to the FDR HPO, working through Amanda and scheduling a time to do the recording. So I was hoping that we could maybe get that done in April so that maybe we could launch it in May. It did take a little bit longer than anticipated getting the LMS set up, because it's set up now so that you can stop and insert questions so that people can't just hit play and walk away. What we'll do is we'll get through spring fling, and then I'll get the folks together that I had on the original meeting, and we'll get commitments on coming down and getting that recorded so that we can proceed with that.
My services are still there if you need them. I'll be more than happy to help. I do have some other avenues I was looking into to get some CLI programs up here, but I don't want to rush anything if we're working on something. So that's great to hear. Thank you.
I think you had one. I think you had one chapter as well, Doug. So they don't have to be recorded in order, because we will put them in order. But we'll get everybody together and see if we can't make that happen right after spring fling. We'll get everybody together.
I'm easy. I offered to go down. I'd go down. Not a problem.
Awesome. So Amanda, like we said, until we get somebody else in the office, we'll be doing that scheduling, but we've set a room up. Everything's set there, and Amanda's already done a training and put it in there. So there is some stuff in there to see how it's working. We did last meeting approve the 12. Did you do 12 or 24?
24 or 25, I don't.
Yeah, we approved the money to buy what we needed for the modules. That's all been done. That's all been paid for. So we will hit this right after spring fling and see if we can't get that going. Anybody in St. Lawrence County have any updates on eclipse or anything they want to share?
Well, I attended the state leadership meeting when they were talking about the eclipse, thinking about 500 to 2 million people being in the belt stretch from Watertown all the way to Plattsburgh. I listened to a couple Clarkson operational meetings, and there are a lot of activities going on throughout the area where EMS is gearing up, if you will, but nothing that you guys don't already know. Anything more specific, unfortunately, I can't answer. Do you guys have anything?
No, we had a countywide chiefs meeting just to figure out what everybody's resources will be for that day. Biggest concern is that there's literally a total of 3 boats that are available from A-Bay all the way to Messina during that time. So if we get any knuckleheads out there on the water and decide that it's, looks great to jump in, we can have a problem. But other than that, everybody's resources are all set up.
Thank you, St. Lawrence. Bob Lewis.
So we're still working with our BOCES program up here, trying to get the CFR and the EMT program off the ground. I was unable to attend the initial meeting that they had. Fun fact, they actually didn't have it at the BOCES here. That information was not contained in the email, so 2 people from our county went over to the Howard G. Sackett Educational Center only to find out that the meeting was actually in Watertown. So unfortunately, we could not attend that, but getting good feedback from that. I didn't hear anything about it as far as how well the meeting went, or if it went, if it was the, good program or not. I believe that our county has, the legislators have sent forth a letter requesting to the state or supporting a stipend program for the firefighters to extend that over to EMS. That was something that's been on their minds since the program came out. Don't know what that looks like, but they forwarded that. So I would expect that if that does start to move forward, hopefully we can get other counties to jump on board with that as well. We're just coming off of Snort Run weekend. For the record, I do not advise having an eclipse and a Snort Run at the same time. The paperwork is no fun. But it was a relatively safe ride. We only had 2 accidents during that. One of them was medical related. Numbers were way down this year. According to Snowpals, they said between 32 to 3,500 registrants. And then you go double that amount for the amount of people that didn't sign into it. So about 6,000 to 7,000, which is down from the previous year. It was a little less chaos, much easier to manage. We had a lot more law enforcement out on the roads. Other than that, we're looking forward to someone shutting off that big ball of fire in the sky, and hopefully we get through Monday without any incidents. And after that, I can take a little bit of a break and hopefully settle down for a bit. End of report.
Any questions for Bob on Lewis County? Melissa, state report. Anything you'd like to share?
Just for the record, I did hear from Norfolk today. They are in the works of getting their paperwork done. I should have that in the next 24 hours. So they have actually dropped their level of care. That was unbeknownst to me officially. So they will be a BLS ambulance, but they will be submitting their paperwork tomorrow. I'm working with them to get that all squared away, and then I'll work with them to work with the B&E to get that all squared away. So they should be all settled here by the end of the week. Yes, we can not do SNRT and the Eclipse in the same week. That would be very nice next year. I would appreciate that as well. If there's any questions about the Eclipse, Jefferson County had everything. I went to their meeting, has everything under control. Nobody else seemed to have any questions or concerns. We will be out and about and around throughout the North Country during the Eclipse.
You may be out and about,
but you're located.
Traffic.
I know. I don't know how quickly we'll be moving during that point in time. You are correct. I don't even know what my deployment is yet, so I can't even tell you where I will be located during that. Ed and I will be going to spring fling the following weekend. So I'm getting a whole lot of North Country in this month. And so Ed and I will be up there for spring fling as well. So we'll see you all again for that. Does anybody have questions for me?
You can request my county, Melissa. We can have coffee.
I will happily come over and have coffee. At least I know I can travel through, and I'm very familiar with the roads of Lewis County now.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for calling into our meetings. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
Old business, we've already discussed spring fling, and like I said, the date for next year, we'll save the date. We'll again look at when Easter is and look at when spring break is, because we try to avoid those so that we don't have the problems. That's why we're so early this year. But we'll get that on the calendar with Edgewood so that that is taken care of.
I have one thing. I forgot to put this in our report, so we did do Fort Drum EMS Day. It went fantastically. The staff at the Mystic and the Med Surg Division, I think it is, were fantastic in helping us make this successful. We had 18 people show up that day, and half of them left just going, when's the next one? So once spring fling is done, I will dive back into working on planning for that. But thank you to the REMSCO for providing lunch that day. And it was a lot of fun. I took a lot of fun pictures of people gagging at the salad mannequin. That was hilarious and the highlight of my day. But thank you to this body for your support, and we'll probably come and ask again in October.
Jonathan, maybe we could put some of those pictures in our before one of the, before the sessions start.
Oh, yeah.
We could put some of them in there so people can see some of that. Okay. Any other old business? Going on to new business, Doug, election of officers, vice chair and treasurer.
Didn't really get a lot of information. Paul sent a nice email in regards to the correspondence of the two people that were still interested in this position. After reading the bylaws, I have no idea whether we're opening up any more nominations from the floor or not. So, and however you to proceed, let me know.
Yeah, so let's start with vice chair. Who is the nominating committee bringing forward for the position of vice chair?
Mark Devers was interested in the vice president position.
Mark Devers is coming forward from the nominating committee for vice chair. Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Been 3 times.
I know. I've got to look around. I have to look at one of the different screens.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations from the floor? Could somebody make a motion, please, to close the poll
That motion.
and that the secretary cast one ballot for Mark Devers for vice chair?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Ron,
I'll second.
seconded by Bobby Simpson. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? And I did have a conversation with Mark, and he does accept the nomination, so he will stay as vice chair. Next position of treasurer, and I know this is the one, Doug, that everybody wanted, so you may have a long list there, but go ahead and tell us who the nominating committee is putting forward as treasurer.
I believe there was Bobby, and that was it.
Oh. So Bobby Simpson has been nominated as to remain as the treasurer. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations from the floor?
I'll make that famous motion to close the nominations and have the secretary cast one ballot.
Ron Smith made a motion to close the polls and have the secretary cast one ballot for Bobby Simpson for treasurer.
Second.
Larry Gerard seconds. All those in favor? Opposed?
Didn't vote again.
Abstentions? Okay, thank you. Thank you to Mark and to Bobby for maintaining their.
I'd like to thank Paul and anybody else that assisted in working on that while I was away.
Any other new business from the floor? Our next meeting is scheduled for June 3rd. And hopefully we won't have to meet before then with any CON paperwork.
Make the motion to close the meeting.
We have a motion from Ron Smith to adjourn the meeting. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Matt Yelton. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Thank you, everybody.
The blue bag.
Thanks all, bye.
Here's those signs.